Hello everyone and welcome to this Nintendo Life. My name is NBZ and it is E3. Nintendo have had their spotlight presentation, they announced some other things as well, and everything is crazy. Bally joins me. How are you feeling, Bally?
I'm pumped. I'm absolutely pumped. That was great. We're going to get into it. E3 is here. Nintendo have done well. I think it's a good time. It's a good time to own a Switch. It's a good time to be a Nintendo fan. It's a good time to be a Metroid fan.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. Some interesting things going on with the Metroid franchise right now. Well, there are feelings. There are feelings in the room, and the feelings will be exposed. So that will happen. But, Bally, we are going to basically, essentially, for the rest of this show, break down what Nintendo talked about during their Spotlight presentation. There are some other stuff that happened afterwards, which will also be included. But we haven't watched too much in depth of other stuff. I know Nintendo are currently streaming. They've done some Xenoblade stuff. They've done some Fire Emblem Warriors. I'll watch a bunch of that over the next couple of weeks. And next episode, we're going to do a cleanup, basically. So these is kind of first reactions, just our thoughts, initial impressions, and then next week we'll do cleanup. We'll talk about Nintendo's appearances elsewhere and other things that happened at E3, but trying to focus on this presentation. Let's kick it off, Bally. I have a rundown of everything they talked about, and they start with a selection of games as part of what seems like an advertisement that would be run on YouTube usually. Like, I saw the usual kind of stuff in the corner which indicates, hey, this is like an ad we'd usually run. And it had a bunch of multiplayer games. So we had ARMS, we had FIFA, and we had Splatoon 2, all of which were known entities, and we knew, hey, those are multiplayer things that are happening. But very, very surprising. Well, not so surprising if you've been paying attention, but Rocket League is coming to the Switch, and it just shows up in this ad without them even talking about it. They end up talking about it later, so maybe we should bring that in now because it kind of starts at the start of the show. But it's coming. Holiday 2017. There will be exclusive cars. I imagine, Bally, F-Zero will have representation here because that's all they like to do with F-Zero these days is trot it out in other video games. They showed a Mario hat popping onto a Rocket League car. Loads of stuff. It's also going to be cross-play, which means if I play on PC and you play on Switch, Bally, we can play together, which is fucking fantastic. And I really like that the devs do that. How do you feel about this? I know you're someone who played a little bit of Rocket League on other people's PS4s and stuff, and they're a big fan of it.
I've played a good few hours of Rocket League at my friends' houses in London, and it's a great game. I think it's so suited to Switch. It's so unique. It's so different. It's just a really great pick up and play multiplayer game that doesn't. It feels like a sport and a driving game stuck into one game. Honestly, it's such a great thing that will work on Switch well because you can obviously take the Switch anywhere on the go and just play some Rocket League. It's just I got really addicted to it, and I'm very keen to pick this up day one that comes out on Switch and do some online play.
Yeah, no, it's great as well because the two of us can play together on a team. We can maybe, get some listeners on and, have some tournament stuff like that. It's really a cool thing. And this being a game that is made by people who understand online will probably have a good infrastructure going on. And I hope that Nintendo's online stuff is all out and working by the time it happens. But end of this year is another kind of knock in the bowstrings for Switch at the holiday season. And I think the interesting thing about Rocket League is it's a game that they've been supporting significantly since it launched. Like, there's a bunch of different modes, some really crazy stuff. There was like an ice hockey thing they did. There's basketball stuff. Like, they've really ramped it up in that game, and everything is confirmed to be there from the developers, as they said in their little video, on Switch day one. So the package we're getting is much more substantial than what people would have bought day one on other platforms, which is cool. It's nice when that happens, when you get the Game of the Year stuff, all that like DLC or whatever pumped in there. And I think Rocket League has generally been doing free updates, which is a good fit with Nintendo because that's what they like to do with Splatoon and with other stuff. So makes sense. So yeah, that was a great kickoff to the presentation, showing that and confirming it was there. And then Reggie came out and... What was Reggie even talking about, Bally?
That was weird. It was just like a monologue about the art and the feeling and the emotion and everything to do with video games. It was just strange, wasn't it? And he name dropped like the word Odyssey, but didn't say Mario Odyssey. And it was just like, Reggie, just give us games. Like, what are you doing?
There's lots of different types of Reggie I feel we get. That was Weird Reggie. Weird Reggie doesn't show up often. He's a little awkward and he's a bit strange. But one thing he did say was like the ticket is the Nintendo Switch, and you take it everywhere with you. And the house falls down around him, and we're in a field. And what does that segue into nicely? Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Confirmed for Holiday 2017, and we got a good look at this game. A lot of new characters shown, a lot of kind of focus on story. They basically confirmed that the girl in the trailer is in fact the sword, and that he is trying to carry her to Elysium or whatever that place is that they're going. And the most surprising thing to me was the voice acting. I was wrong, Bally. It's not going to be all American, because there was, I don't know if it was a northern accent. I'm not sure if you could pin it, what the guy was.
There was definitely a northern accent for sure, you know.
Yeah. So I couldn't quite tell where exactly. You know, you have to be an expert on that part of the world, which I'm clearly not.
There were some other like very posh sort of, you know, more southern accents in there as well as an English one. And like
yeah, and there was some slight American.
Yeah,
I heard an Australian voice. I thought I heard a Scottish voice when I was rewatching the Easy Allies reaction. I thought I heard a Scottish one in there. So That'd it seems nice. Like it's not going to be homogenized. They're actually going a bit more eclectic here and getting voice talent from all across different regions of the world, which is great. And I think that lends a nice flavor to it. I don't know how I feel about the voice acting yet. It is out of context, right? Like when you're in the game, I think it will carry over a lot better. Like if you heard some original Xenoblade Chronicles VO out of context, it may not sound very good. Right. But in that game, I think the VO works well. So
you need to see the cutscenes, how they're going to work together, and get a good.
Yeah. How do you feel about like the look of this game, Bally? Because it seems like they're really leaning into that anime aesthetic.
I like the look of the world more than the people. Perhaps I think it does look very anime, and I mean I'm not adverse to that look. I just don't think it maybe looks quite as nice as certainly the original Xenoblade aesthetic. I wasn't a huge fan of X in terms of the way that game looked in terms of the characters.
Yeah, the faces were bad in X. I think generally people don't like the faces in the Xenoblade games. I actually think the faces work in the original.
Right.
As crude as they are, I think they actually carry a lot of character. These seem a lot more generic, you know, like there doesn't seem to be as much personality in the individual characters, but we'll have to wait and see on that stuff, because that's going to be carried a lot by the storyline and the voice acting, and it seems like they're doubling down on that. Like this looks like, hey, this is going to be a story driven RPG, like we're going back to what the original was, and I'm glad about that, because I think that game is excellent, and a lot of the reason why is because of its narrative focus. So I'm hoping we're going to get a lot more of that.
And it's coming Holiday 2017.
I know. I believed them, and they say it's still happening. Now, here's the thing, Bally. They could still delay it. Like, there's nothing to stop them still delaying it.
I mean, they could, but, you know...
But E3's a big stage to be bold and say, hey, it's coming, right?
It is coming. And
they didn't give a specific date.
If it doesn't come,
now that we know that Mario is October, the fact that this is going to come holiday, I think probably late November, early December for this.
Yeah, like there's not much else coming late year. I mean, obviously, like you said, Mario October, which we can get into, but other than that, it's sort of Zelda DLC this December and not much else. So, well, we don't know when Zelda DLC Pack 2 is, do we? It's sort of
no, they said holiday.
Holiday, right? Holiday. So,
we'll get to that.
This and Xenoblade and the Zelda DLC is a pretty good combo, so they kind of have to make that slot.
Yeah, it's one that I think is important, and I'm very excited to play this game now. They've definitely given me... I don't think they have necessarily shown explicit links to the original Xenoblade as I had thought they would, but I think there has to be some kind of story thing that's going to make some kind of allusion here or there, because it wouldn't make sense to make this thing called Xenoblade 2 without having that happen. And I think it's important. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. I think like the whole idea of her being a weapon and potentially having other people be weapons. I don't know how many party members there are going to be. It seemed like they showed at the end of the trailer a group of people who seemed like it was going to be your party, but The battle system looks slightly different, but still Xenoblade. I'm really down for this. I'm very excited. So hopefully that comes out this year and they keep their promise. We will see. And then after that, I think they went straight into the Kirby trailer, right? Where they were like, "Oh, this hero, we need a hero," and I was like, "What is this game? What the hell are they talking about?" And then they pull a fast one. It's like, "Oh, it's Kirby." So it's a Kirby game, and here's a theme, a trend that I think has been following through this direct is here's a title without any subtitle whatsoever, and it's 2018, and we don't really know anything about this game apart from what it looks like and how it plays. But this is a Kirby game, Bally. It's a Kirby-ass Kirby game. I don't know. It looks good. It looks nice. It's a Switch game, but it's a Kirby game. I don't know how you feel.
There have been a lot of Kirby-ass Kirby games of late, 2 on 3DS most notably, and neither of us have bitten on either of those, and they...
No, but what I will say is that
look
Triple
good.
Deluxe and Planet Robobot are more appealing to me than this game is. And
So
the reason
far,
for that is because Triple Deluxe had some cool stuff going on with the 3D, with the background and foreground, and also people talk about that game very highly. Like, they say it's a very good Kirby game. And Robobot has a twist on the thing with the robot stuff and adding like different elements to it. Whereas this really felt like it's kind of a sequel to the Dreamland game that came out at the end of the Wii's life cycle, like Return to Dreamland. It seems like it's one of those. It's just like a side-scrolling Kirby. And it looks like there might be some co-op in there, but when we talk about franchises that are stale and that never do anything different, I feel like just generic side-scrolling Kirby games fall really heavily into that category. Like, they change some stuff, like with abilities and powers and everything, but those games are so easy that I really don't see the need for that stuff to even change, the way you play, because most of the time just bobbing through the level like an idiot. So the one thing is, like, you see the Wispy Woods boss and it's like, well, he's been in a million games. It's the same, that's the thing about Kirby that makes me not super interested. I don't think it's very exciting when you just announce another one of these,
Yeah, I'm not too pumped about it. I like my Kirby, Epic Yarn. I mean, I've not played that game, but it looks interesting too. I was going to say Rainbow Curse, which obviously I've borrowed from you and still need to play, which I'm going to get to very soon, I think. But that's how I like my Kirby.
It's a very short game. Won't take you long.
A bit mixed up, yeah. I need something a bit different. This just looked far too bland. And like you said, Robobot and the other one, they do some interesting stuff as well, and I'd probably rather pick those up than this as of yet, because this needs to do something different and exciting, and this wasn't different or exciting at all.
I think the one neat thing about it is, hey, Kirby games often have co-op and multiplayer. We have Switch out the box with the Joy-Con, so I think that's neat. It's like, oh, you're on a plane, you can just pop it out and play a bit of Kirby. I don't know, could be cool. Then they went to Pokemon Talk, and Pokemon Talk was, oh hey, Pokemon Tournament's happening, and I was like, fucking move on, stop wasting my time with goddamn Pokemon Tournament. We know it exists, for fuck's sake. And they showed a tiny bit of it, and Ishihara was like, yes, we're talking, we're doing this, and then he was like, oh, one more thing, and I was like, oh, here we go, the Pokemon announcement. It's like, we are making a mainline Pokemon for Switch. I'm like, no fucking shit, you're making a mainline Pokemon for Switch. You'd be idiots not to. Like, I don't know. I think it's very obvious to me that they were always going to do one of those. But just, it's nice to have it confirmed for sure. People are happy about that. But I don't know. I think this announcement was bigger for a lot of people than it was for me, because I just took this as an obvious thing that was going to happen. And without any trailer, any look at the game whatsoever, it doesn't do much, I don't know. I think it's an important announcement. I think for most people, they're going to point to this as like, this is one of the reasons this was an important conference, because they confirmed there is a mainline RPG coming to the system. But it was always going to happen, so I'm not surprised.
There's some games where just the name makes a big difference, and there's other games where just the name, you're like, and they're working on it, it's like, right, okay. And I think this spotlight highlighted where just announcing a name can really make an impact, and where just announcing a name, not even a name, but just that you're working on the game, can make a lot less of an impact.
Yeah, exactly. I think we should take into our own consideration, like, the way we feel about Pokemon, because I think for most people,
I still need to play some. That's what I need to do.
Exactly. Like, for most people, that Pokemon announcement is a leap out of your chair moment, right? But the Pokemon fan base has been catered to for years and will continue to be catered to. So I don't think it's I just don't think it's a surprising announcement. I think it's a very important one, though. Like, if you're talking about which of these announcements are the most important to the health of the Switch, nothing is more important than Pokemon. Nothing. Yeah. Like, that is a system seller. Apparently this game is around a year out, which makes sense. Probably fall of 2018, this game will be out. And next Christmas is going to be gangbusters for Nintendo. Switch is going to sell the fuck out. It's selling the fuck out right now, but next Christmas is going to be crazy if they launch Pokemon with it. So, yeah, doesn't need to be understated, but yeah, again, not super exciting.
And
let's move on then to the next thing. Well, they had, like, in between some of these announcements, they shifted to Shinya Takahashi, who's like the head of software and hardware and all this stuff. Like, he kind of oversees everything, and he was talking about some stuff and throws it to the Pokemon guy and comes back, and then he's like, all right, we're focusing. He's like lowering expectations. He's like, yeah, we're just focusing on stuff coming out this year on Switch, so nothing crazy is going to come out. And then he goes straight into Metroid Prime 4. Which is literally a logo and nothing else. It says, now in development for Nintendo Switch, and then they leave it, and then they go. This is the fucking mic drop moment of the entire thing.
Yeah.
This is the, holy shit, they're actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I know that, Bally, you're a massive Metroid Prime fan. Everyone knows that I have mixed feelings about Metroid Prime. But I've always said, like, if a new one comes out, I will play that thing day one. Because the one thing for me is, like, going back to the Metroid Prime games, I find, like, a little awkward. Because I think they need modernizing in a lot of ways, and I don't think they control very well. But I think they can do some tremendous stuff with a new one. And I'm very interested. And it's also because, like, I watched Let's Plays when I was younger, like, a lot of them, and so I've seen Metroid Prime played a couple of times at least. So that's the one thing that I feel like I have a disconnect with some of these games is, like, Paper Mario. I've seen people play through, like, those games a bunch, even though I've never played it myself. And so when it comes to me going back in time in Nintendo's catalog and choosing what I want to play next that's old, I usually steer away from those because I kind of have seen them before. Just kind of silly, but hey, that's what I did when I was younger. I watched a fuck ton of Let's Plays. So anyway, Metroid Prime 4. Bally, what do you think?
It was the way that you just see the space, like you see space and you think, come on, don't do this to me.
You really feel a troll is coming, don't you?
If you give me space, don't give me something else. Give me Metroid. Like, okay, I would have been happy if it was F-Zero, but, you know, F-Zero is not as directly linked to sort of the abyss of space. And I was just like, come on. And then you just see sort of the S shape form, and you're like, yes, it is. And then it's just that 4 just comes in. You're like, oh my god, they're doing
the 4
Metroid
lingers there
Prime
for so long, and it just, like, flames burst behind the 4, and then finally they say Metroid Prime next to the 4. Hell of a logo. Kind of looks a bit fan-made, I will say, but still hell of a logo.
Maybe. I couldn't be more pumped about a game if I tried. Maybe F-Zero Advance Wars, perhaps. But this is up there. Those are like my top 3 of like stuff I need to hear about. And this was just... it's so nice to know that this game is coming to the Switch. And we don't know when. I'm going to... hopefully end of 2018, but I could easily see it. You're
very
right.
Generous.
Middle or start of 2019, which is a way away. But I mean, we're just left there wanting to see what on earth is this game. And you said that on Twitter it'd been confirmed that, like, Retro weren't working on it, so it's gonna be different in some way, and hopefully it is different, because, like, Metroid 1 Prime 1, 2, and 3, like, they all are sort of iterations on each other. They do sort of some different things and interesting things. I still need to play 3.
Definitely.
But
I think that's the cool thing about the Prime series is it wasn't just Prime 1 again and again. Like, they did do different things for all 3 games.
Prime 2 is so different to Prime 1. I couldn't believe it, but it's still a fantastic game. So yeah, I need to play 3.
And 3 in itself is even more of, like, action-y game.
Yeah, I'm just dying to play. I'm going to play that tomorrow. Like, I just want to start that game.
Oh, jeez. You just, like, had the E3 boost to your esteem of Metroid.
Yeah, I'm just excited about that game now. So, yeah, this is just such an announcement. It's that one thing I just needed a big unknown game to be announced, and it's just delivered.
Yeah. It was definitely the thing that shook the internet for a moment. People were stunned and very, very excited. I am very interested to see what they do with this, because it is a different team. It is apparently an internally developed Nintendo thing now, so it's going to be in Kyoto. Tanabe is heading it up with a new team. Don't know what that new team is, but Tanabe was, I believe, in charge of all 3 Metro Prime games. He worked with Retro and was kind of at the leadership stage for that stuff. So I think he knows what he's doing, and hopefully they get a good team. People have been speculating that maybe they'll bring in Platinum, which would be very interesting. But we'll see. It's definitely going to be a different game, I think. I don't think it's going to... I think there will be similarities to the original Metro Prime, but I think they're going to try and do something a little bit different as well, just to make it stand out somewhat. But I don't know. It could be risky, right? Like, one of the things I think people are going to be wondering is, do they go more traditional to restore faith in the Metroid franchise and then maybe branch out and be a bit different? I don't know. But, yeah. I don't know. Any final thoughts on Metro Prime 4 before we move on, Bally?
Just give it to me now. We need to see more of that game. I can't. It's very reassuring that it's coming, and we know it's coming. That's the best thing about this.
I think, yeah, despite the fact that it was just a logo and this game is as fucking vaporware as Final Fantasy VII Remake right now, I have way more confidence in Nintendo delivering a video game than I do Square Enix, I'll say that much. If
there's one Nintendo game that Nintendo could get away with just a logo and then an announcement, it was Metroid Prime 4. So, like...
Right, and I think that's exactly why they did it, because they could have come here and said nothing and then revealed it with gameplay later. But I do think they made the right call in this direct, or spotlight, what the fuck it's called, by placing confidence in Switch's future library, right? Like, that, I think, is, for me, most of all, what they needed to do was announce things, even if they're not even, like, starting development yet. Just tell us that you're doing things to make the consumer confident in their purchase and happy about what they've bought, right? Because they want stuff, you know, in the future, and that's why Sony's conference is always so popular, because they talk about things years and years out, but it gives people satisfaction that they're eventually going to get them, and this was that to a T. So very cool. I think that is probably one of the biggest headlines of E3. So Nintendo already on the up there. Next, we just rolled straight into another video game, and I thought, really, they're porting Woolly World to another platform. But no, it looks like it's a new game. It's a new Yoshi game. Again, following the Kirby trend. No subtitle, just Yoshi 2018. That's all we got. And it feels like a mashup between kind of Paper Mario style crafty looking buildings and stuff with Yoshi's Woolly World. And they were talking about like some kind of like reversing the viewpoint. So either you view it from the left or the right is what I understood from that trailer. A little bit hard to comprehend, but it seems like it's doing a bit more of a twist on the Yoshi formula. Seems like there's foreground and background stuff going on with like shooting eggs into different directions.
A lot of co-op.
It looks cool. Yeah, and there is co-op, of course, which is, you know, another thing that they seem to be pushing a lot on Switch is with the Joy-Con, hey, you got a co-op machine straight out of the box. So they definitely want to double down on that, and I like the look of this. As we've discussed before, I think you're much more down on Yoshi and its current iterations than I am. I think both of us, rightly so, thought that Woolly World overstayed its welcome and, like, you know, had some stuff that was a bit too fluffy. Pun totally not intended. But I think that this is a solid game, and I'm more interested in this than I am in Kirby, personally.
Yeah, I'm definitely more interested in this than Kirby. It was a pretty good trailer, considering I feel a little bit burned on sort of the Yoshi style of 2D platformer. I did like that there was sort of a lot more three-dimensional elements into this, and some of those boss fights looked interesting, and I like the co-op. And like you said, with the Switch, if you can do a bit of co-op where you just take a Joy-Con each and play it on the go, it's a really nice aspect of the system. So it's nice that hopefully this game will do that. I need to see more of this, and I just need some more interesting stuff from this game to be interested.
Yeah, I it's the sort of thing where I hope like a later trailer will be a bit more exciting and show some different environments and stuff. Like
Yeah.
this kind of feels like the Super Mario 3D World original trailer, where it's like, okay, it's a 3D thing that's like 3D Land. It's like, okay, this is kind of like Woolly World, but not quite. I think they have some things that are kind of special that they could do with it that could be really neat. So I'll await that. But for now, it's a next year game. That's 3 that they announced during this thing. It was Kirby, Metroid, and Yoshi, all next year games, which is more than I thought they would do, honestly, when they said, we have a 2017 focus. But in any case, next up was another 2017 game, which is Fire Emblem Warriors, coming fall of 2017. Had a lot of focus on these 2 new characters, which are going to be kind of main story-driven characters for the campaign of the game, as well as a bunch of characters from Fire Emblem Fates, and Marth was in there as well. Didn't really show the game, just showed a bunch of CG stuff, which, okay, I don't think I really need to see the game, if I'm honest, because I know what a Dynasty Warriors game is. Everyone does. It's just, it's a thing. So I'm not really super bothered about this game. Neither are you, but
No,
it's a slot filler, and I think Nintendo like to work with Koei Tecmo because they can kind of pump these games out and they can slap a brand on it and be like, this'll sell because we slapped a brand on it.
It reaches an audience. It'll sell well. People like Fire Emblem. People like smashing things. Put the 2 together. There you go.
Yeah, and also on the Switch, I'm sure it's going to be great. So, portably, all that stuff. One thing I would have liked to see is a bit wider character representation. Right now, it's very like modern Fire Emblem focus, which makes sense given the series' success. But like, hey, I would like to be Hector and Lynn and run around a field smashing people. Give me like some Ephraim in there, Give me some classic characters. Even give me Arm and Celica now that they're in the spotlight with Echoes. Like that would be really cool. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be hundreds of characters because that's what Dynasty Warriors does. It's like characters upon characters, and also there's going to be fuckloads of DLC.
You'll get your Hector.
If you look at Hyrule Warriors, I will fucking get my Hector. Well, maybe one day, Bally, I will buy this game and play as Hector, but until that day, we're gonna have to wait. So yeah, that's. They didn't give a month for that, which I'm trying to think where that would slot in. Probably September because Rabbids is August. Mario's October. I think September's probably the slot for that.
Sounds about right.
Anyway, next up was Zelda. Check in with the DLC, and we got
Pretty
some
nice
stuff
trailer.
about both packs. The trailer for the first pack was showing like a bit more in detail what's going to go on with the trial of the sword, where you have these multiple arenas.
I guess we'll get a trailer for the second pack later down the line.
I imagine in
With a
Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
later this year. We did technically get a trailer for it. We'll get into that in a second. But the first pack is coming out on June 30th, so it's the end of this month, which is very soon. And we already know what it's bringing with it. It's all those costumes. It's the map feature where you can see where you've walked, and it is, of course, the Trial of the Sword. Trial of the Sword, the most interesting part of this. Also the hard mode, which is dumb, and those balloon things look dumb. Anyway, that aside. That aside, I thought the Trial of the Sword stuff looked really neat. Like the notion that it is like these closed off rooms, but they're still adding environmental stuff. Like there's snow areas and there's the lava stuff going on with wind, and like they're giving it a more defined personality than the Shrines had, or even the Cave of Trials did in the older games. Like Twilight Princess Cave of Trials is the same room for 50 floors, just with different enemies in it. This is way more variety. It plays to the strengths of Breath of the Wild and gives you multiple options to attack situations. I think it looks pretty good.
It's looking good, and I mean, like we've talked about before, they're tying the 2 packs together. You can't buy one without the other, can you? So
no, still can't.
There you go. I mean, I'm gonna get it. It's gonna be fine, I guess. But I'm more excited about that second pack than the first pack, even though we know far less about it.
Right, so the second pack is called The Champion's Ballad. We got a little bit of a trailer which was showing Cass playing just the best music in that entire game. Every time you roll up to Cass and he's playing that, I'm like, oh, I love this. This is incredible. And it's called The Champion's Ballad. And it will involve somehow all the champions in the game, who are, I can't remember all their names, but, Goron, Rito.
The big one, the little
Zora,
one, the lady.
The big one, the Gerudo, Urbosa.
Nailed it.
Urbosa's the best, just saying. And yeah, it seems like this is coming holiday 2017. Again, no solid date and not really any information on what the fuck it is still. But it's called the Champions Ballad, so we can kind of spitball and guess. I think this has to take place in the past, Mally. Like, this has to be something to do with what happened before everything went to shit and, you know, the world fell apart and became post-apocalyptic. Like, there's stuff going on with this game in the past, and I'm very interested to see how they deal with that in terms of the open world and how much they have to change it if they allow you to explore everything, or whether they lock you off to certain areas, which would be, I think, a bad play considering the strengths of this game.
I think they might lock you off to certain areas, but they'll radically change those areas to as they looked like in the past, obviously. So I think there will be value in this DLC. They're going to do something interesting in that sense, I think. I'm skeptical to say they'll give you access to the full world map and change it in a full way. I don't know. But
yeah, it seems like that would require a hell of a lot of
even
work.
if you just did 2 regions that they radically transformed, put in a dungeon, got you to interact with these 4 champions in a unique way, or even got to play as them for periods, I think that there's exciting stuff they can do.
Yeah, there's totally some regions that don't really need to have anything changed about them. Like, I think the Gerudo Desert probably still looks the way that it did, you know? Like, it's a desert.
Well, I've not got there yet. Change much. That's a problem.
I know. Bali, the fucking slowest player of Zelda in the history of the universe.
The one area I've not visited yet. I'm going to get there.
Save the best for last, I'll tell you what.
Did it on purpose.
But yeah, do you think that there is any chance we get a new area out of this DLC, or is that asking too much?
I think there could well be a new area. I think that would.
What if, like, this is confined to just a new open world area that's smaller than the main game? Like, that could be possible.
I think that would be great. Yeah, either radically change existing area or add a new area, or maybe even a bit of both. And I think you're onto something.
A new area would really excite me because the joy of Breath of the Wild is discovery, and having a new place that you've never seen before with so many secrets and hidden things in it, that sounds the most appealing to me personally.
If on one side of the map there's like fog that just cleared and you just see a mountain with a new tower or something, and you're like, I've got to get to that tower. Like, every time I decide, right, I'm going to go visit a tower, and this was a specific thing I've been doing throughout the game, is not visiting all the towers first. I've been purposefully leaving them and doing it gradually because I don't want to spoil myself rotten. I want to gradually discover more of the map. So like I said, I've still got the Gerudo region to discover, and I need to find that tower and get to it. And that's like the most enjoyable part of the game that I've experienced so far. So that's what I'd love the DLC to replicate.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's exciting, and it will be very, very cool. Next up, they had to go to the devil and make a deal, which is Amiibo. Everyone loves Amiibo, and they're doing Amiibo for all 4 champions. And they didn't tell us what they're going to do in the game. They're probably going to have something to do with the DLC, but the one thing I'm going to say: why the fuck did you have that plastic thing sticking out of the middle of Orbosa in the most like awkward possible place? What the shit is going on with that? That is the worst design decision I think I might have ever seen. And we live in a world where fucking piss-ass Link exists. So, Jesus, like, Nintendo, what kind of statement are you making? God.
She'd fall over otherwise. She needs a bit of support, right?
Well, maybe they should have given her a better fucking pose, huh? Maybe they shouldn't stick so rigidly to their fucking artwork. So one thing I think is the most ridiculous thing about Amiibo is, like, they really have this idea that they have to, like, and this was the thing with Smash Brothers, which made a lot of those statues so awkward, was, like, Sakurai was like, they have to be the exact same as their trophy in the game, which make things like Zero Suit Samus, where she's, like, floating with a whip in the air, like, super awkward to do.
The fictional trophies were invented before the Amiibo, and then it just meant that they got all these funny supports.
Here's the ridiculous thing. They could have drawn those characters with new artwork and then represented them by that, so they wouldn't have to stick fucking bits of plastic up their asses. Like, oh my god, it's baffling to some degree.
But I like how much we care about this when we buy so few Amiibo as well.
I know. Well, I'll get some use out of my Samus one. We'll see about that. Anyway, next up they talked about Reggie came back and was like, we have tournaments. This is when they're happening. This is the kind of shit they should have just put in Treehouse. Waste of my fucking time.
We already knew about it. Why waste the minutes? What's going on?
I mean, you know why. It's because the biggest possible audience is watching this part of the thing. So they want to get their ad in there. And fair play, I guess. But I don't know. Are you going to check out those tournaments, Bally? I'm not super interested, honestly. I think... I know what Splatoon is. I'm not super interested in watching a tournament for it. And ARMS, again, is not...
There's a lot more stuff exciting. I need to catch up on than to watch people play a game I know about already.
Yeah, I want to, watch Xenoblade Treehouse stuff and all that other, crazy nonsense. And there's going to be like 9 hours of Giant Bomb late night shows to watch. So, not happening for me. But yeah, hey, great, they're doing tournaments. It would have been wonderful if Smash Brothers had been announced, because then could have had one of those as well, and that would have been exciting. But anyway, after that, they made the Rabbids play, which happened during the Ubisoft press conference. Bally, have you seen the Ubisoft press conference, or at least that part of it yet, where they announced the Rabbids game?
I've seen like little bits of the trailer. I've not actually seen Miyamoto and Trinan come on the stage as I know they did.
Bally, I need to tell you, you have to fucking watch that press conference. I think Ubisoft did a great job this year. I think probably next to Nintendo, they're the best press conference. They had some really cool things. Obviously, the Beyond Good and Evil 2 announcement made people insane. There was some great stuff in there.
Is that coming Switch?
No one knows. Let's not talk about that. It's a mess.
Save it for another time.
Yeah, Bally, I know there's lots of stuff to watch. Watch that, at least watch the opening to that Ubisoft press conference, because it is great. And it is... I have never seen the internet do such a hard 180 on a video game.
Right.
Like, everyone going into Mario and Rabbids was like, the fuck? No one likes the Rabbids. What is this shit? What are people doing? I've known for ages that it's going to be a turn-based strategy thing, because that's what people have been saying, but no one was paying attention to that.
They've been working on it a long time.
I know, and when they finally reveal, like, the XCOM-esque strategy stuff, people are like, holy shit, this looks awesome! And I'm like, well, yeah, we've known it's going to be this strategy game. Have you not been paying attention?
Yeah. You're also a big fan of Codename Steam, right? It's very similar in many ways.
Well, it's not quite the same. Codename Steam is a bit more freeform.
Okay.
This is much more turn-based in terms of... like squares on a grid, although it is more free movement because you have the wire that you can kind of go anywhere, but it's still kind of more rigid, I think, than Codename Steam is, and it doesn't have like you're personally aiming your shots or anything like that.
Okay.
It's a slight difference. Like Codename Steam falls more into the Valkyria Chronicles end of things, which is not quite the same as XCOM. This is more XCOM, which is like hiding behind cover, having half cover, going into Overwatch mode, where like if you don't use up your full movement, then if your enemy moves, you automatically take a shot on their turn, stuff like that, which Codename Steam had as well. But in any case, the game looks gorgeous. It's a really nice looking thing. It has a very 3D world aesthetic to it. And honestly, I thought the Rabbids stuff was pretty funny. Like, I thought they landed it well, and it just seems like a passion project. Like, this seems like a game that has had a lot of love and work gone into it, despite people thinking it was going to be a cash grab, like, weird crossover. And just the Miyamoto appearance on stage was joyful and wonderful, and you need to see that. It's great. So, yeah, I'm sold on this game. I am day one, absolutely in, because for me, Switch so far has been a grouping of a lot of old games and a lot of games that haven't made me excited, either because they're indies that I can get on PC and that run worse on Switch, or they're Mario Kart 8, which I've already played 50 hours of and I don't want to spend full price on. This is, though very weird and maybe not something I'd usually care about, very interesting and different and new, and I like to reward stuff like that, and especially because it's in a genre of like strategy stuff that I'm interested in but I've never really played. Like, I haven't played XCOM yet, so I'm curious about it, and I really want to dig in and try it out.
Yeah, I'm curious as well, and it's coming at quite a good time. Like, it's not getting in the way of other games necessarily, is it? I think
it's August 29th, so
that's like Splatoon is July, right? So then August,
it's about a month after Splatoon, basically.
Right. So I think
a bit more,
probably quite a good time where I'd consider picking this up. And you're right. Everyone was worried that like Rabbids would drag this down, and like the opposite has happened. Like the Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom has dragged them up. Like this isn't like a Rabbids game with Mario polish. This is like a genuine Mario game when it comes to like the look of it. It's got that level of polish you'd associate with Nintendo, not Ubisoft. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be a bad game. Like it just looks great. It looks like mechanically they've really, really thought about it and made sure that it's aesthetically it works, because Mario and Rabbids are so contrasting and they've put so much effort into making sure that the sort of, it's like an affected Mushroom Kingdom by the Rabbids or something, right? So it's like it actually looks authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this has seen Nintendo oversight for sure. Like you can tell they've been involved in making sure this thing is looking good and running well. And it's very interesting because they cut to the director during the Ubisoft stream, and he was like almost crying. He's on the verge of tears. Like he was very proud of his game being up there and the association with Miyamoto and Nintendo. It was very interesting because someone linked a article on Twitter. I can't remember who wrote the article, but it was about the fact that this director in charge of Mario and Rabbids had been a massive Nintendo fan all his life. There is this story he had of him like waiting 10 hours in the rain to meet Miyamoto at one point when he was like in the country, and the idea that he eventually became, you know, this director who got to work with Nintendo. It's a real like feel good story of like this guy got his dream essentially, and you can tell that he really put so much love and effort into this game, and the team was like fully on board. So I'm super down with it. And I think that this, out of all the surprises of E3, I think the most surprising thing is the reaction to this game has been so positive.
Just 'cause it looks great,
and that's great,
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So that's a solid game in the Switch's lineup that none of us really expected was going to be such a tentpole. But there you go. After that, we saw the Rocket League stuff, which we talked about earlier. Give me a percentage chance, Bally, on the Blue Falcon showing up as an item or a car in this game.
Oh, it's got to be 70-80%, doesn't it? How can you not have?
It's pretty high.
Falcon?
Yeah.
If it can get into Mario Kart, how can it not get into a game with like actual proper fast cars?
Exactly. Like it's all about rocket speed, so you know the F-Zero stuff fits in there perfectly. So that's going to happen.
Have you played this game at all yet?
Nope, never played Rocket League. It's
I
one of those
think
games.
You might actually love it, MEZ. Like, I think it'll
Yeah, I
take some
know.
getting used to, and you genuinely do have to be like into the driving aspect of it. But once you get your head around that, it's an absolute dream to play.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I've always liked the concept of football, and I enjoy playing football. I've just, over the years, I never was interested. When I was younger, I was interested in watching it, but like this is a fresh take on it that makes it more appealing to an audience. And I think also, in video game form, neither of us have ever been interested in FIFA, like generally.
No.
So, yeah, this just...
It doesn't feel like FIFA.
No, of course not. But what I will say is, like, having just recently fallen in love and head over heels with Overwatch, I can very easily see the same happening with Rocket League. So
I'm excited.
And the final thing, the end of the conference.
Oh boy!
They show a field and a dinosaur.
The Tyrannosaurus Rex.
No one knows what the fuck is going on. What is this game? Did they bring back Turok? Like, what the fuck is happening? You thought it was a Donkey Kong game.
Yeah.
And then a Mario hat appears and out jumps Mario. And everyone is like, what the fuck? There's a dinosaur in this game. And then they proceeded to just fucking assault our eyeballs with incredible shit in this Mario game. This looks like a goddamn stellar video game, and I am so fucking excited for it. It is so creative. EAD Tokyo, probably now EPD Tokyo after the reformation of all their studios and everything, bar none, the most creative team in the entire games industry. Like, I cannot think of a team that has more ideas stuffed into single video games than this group of individuals. They are astonishing when it comes to that stuff. And the idea of Mario's hat being doing all these moves, but also being able to transport him into the consciousness of or bodies of all these different enemies and different creatures in the environment, like the level of puzzle solving that affords, all that stuff is crazy. How do you feel about this trailer, Bally?
The juiciness of like new ideas in this game is just oozing with so many innovative and unusual ideas, and you're absolutely right. Like EAD Tokyo or whatever they're called now are just spot on when it comes to innovation and giving us, like, everyone always worries how where did Nintendo go next with Mario and 3D Mario? What do they do after,
how do they top Galaxy? It's a hard thing.
How do you top Galaxy 2? And 3D World went in a very different direction, and that's understandable.
Sure, yeah.
But now you're back to the more open world aspects of Mario. Where do you go? And there's so many little tidbits in this thing that are just insane. So we're talking about the idea from Link Between Worlds, where Mario is in a 2D wall doing a 2D platformer, jumps out the wall, and then the enemies also jump out the wall and in 3D space, and you're moving around a cylindrical tower. It's just this 2D game rendered in a 3D world. It looks insane. It's unbelievable.
And it's original Super Mario Brothers 8-bit style. It is aping that 100%.
And the music goes 8-bit when you're in the wall. And when you have a character like Mario and he goes back to the 8-bit era, and that's obviously his foundation and is such an important part of Nintendo history that was obviously made very known with games like Mario Maker, being able to reference that in a really inspiring, interesting, creative way in a 3D Mario game is just such a great idea, because it just brings a real sense of history to what Mario is about and where he's been and where he's going now, and it's providing crazy new innovation with the retro parts and putting it all together into this just ridiculous game.
You can control those real humans in New Donk City, Bally.
God.
And just sink in for a second. That's fucking weird. It's also fucking awesome, right? Oh my god, there's a lot happening, and I think next time on the show we'll probably go deeper, because they showed a lot of stuff on Treehouse. We've watched half an hour of the Treehouse stuff, and it seems like lots of crazy things, like side quests and stuff. Seems like you're kind of collecting these moons, which will be used to fuel the ship. And you can change your hats and your outfits and stuff, which they showed off a bit of in the trailer. The thing that I really liked they showed off on the Treehouse segment was when he went into the 2D thing, he kept his costume, so it was Mario in a sombrero, but 8-bit style.
Yep.
I thought that was great. Really so smart, and just they're unrivaled. These guys, no wonder that no one else attempts to make big budget 3D platformers in this day and age, because quite frankly, no one can come close to this. It is just on another level. And I want to play this game. I want to play this game real bad. And I said, Bally, and we discussed...
It's coming October.
Yeah, 27th of October.
Super soon.
Which is very soon. Yeah, it's ridiculous. We discussed on last episode... I was like, I don't really want to see more of this game. I think I have a good idea of what this game is, and then they pull the Breath of the Wild, and they're like, you have no fucking clue how crazy this game is. Let me show you. What a fantastic trailer. I put this up there with the January Breath of the Wild trailer. It's one of my favorite Nintendo trailers in recent memory.
They're getting better. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, great surprises, and really, really exciting. So.
Talking of great surprises.
Talking of surprises, just straight up. So we thought it was all over, pal. We thought it was fine. We're done. That's the spotlight. Reggie was coming on after the Mario segment on Treehouse. Reggie came on, and Reggie had said on Jeff Keighley, he's like,
with the new 2DS.
With the new 2DS, he didn't actually talk about it. He was just holding it in his hand for a really long time. And he had said on Keighley that, you better tune in to the first hour of Treehouse, because we're going to have more announcements there. And I'm like, Reggie, there hasn't been it's been 45 minutes. There's not been a single announcement yet. So what the fuck are you talking about? And then he's like, okay, here we have a new trailer for a new 3DS game.
And he looked kind of happy about, like unusually happy about a trailer for a
Yeah.
3DS game, and I'm kind of like,
He did.
what is he smiling about?
And and so I was like, well, it's a 3DS game, no one cares. And then what the fuck did they do? They tell us there's a new fucking 2D Metroid? What? Bally, we live in a world in 2017 where they not only announce Metroid Prime 4, but they show a new 2D Metroid that is a remake of Metroid 2, and it is on 3DS.
Of all the games they could have remade, why Metroid?
Yeah. I wonder why Nintendo are a little annoyed about the AM2R thing last year. Can't think why. Apparently, all along they were planning to remake Metroid 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so... God, this is a fucking weird announcement in a lot of ways that have me super conflicted. First of all...
What they called Thingamy Mercury?
Mercury Steam.
Mercury Steam.
So Mercury Steam, they made the Lords of Shadow games on 360 PS3, which I think people like the first Lords of Shadow, which is a 3D Castlevania game, Bally. And the second one was not very good, apparently. They also made a 3DS Castlevania game called Mirror of Fate. And some people, I think, like that game. Most people regard that game as straight trash and a fucking awful video game. And just ugly and not very good mechanically. I haven't, no. All I go on is like what people have said. Because I was following the development of it because I've been interested in Castlevania stuff for a while. And it came out and it was kind of trash by most accounts. Like most people didn't think it was a good game. And I was worried that, you know, if they were going to give 2D Metroid to someone, they might give it to someone who's not got a great track record. And, you know, they're doing this. They've done this for years with Yoshi and now with Pikmin. They keep going back to Arzest for whatever fucking reason, even though they pump out shit games every time. And they're doing it again with Mercury Steam. And there are things that can alleviate my worry here. Is number one, this is a remake of Metroid 2. So they aren't necessarily designing a new Metroid game from the ground up. They have a blueprint of an old Nintendo game to go on. So it's not like they're doing the level design and doing that stuff, right? They have stuff to follow. So that's good. It will probably look good in 3D. And I'm holding out my hope for that because right now I don't think it looks very nice. I think just like that Castlevania game,
good but not amazing.
For me, obviously 3DS games look bad on a stream. Amplified so because it's doing a 2D style in a 3D kind of model. Like, that can be done well.
It doesn't look any worse than something like Codename Steam, which we know looked good in 3D.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison because I think a lot of us thought Codename Steam looked garbage when we first saw it. In actuality, Codename Steam...
More garbage than this, and it actually looked pretty good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Codename Steam looks really nice in 3D. Like, it is a great... But the thing that I will come down on is I think Codename Steam actually has a defined art style that this game doesn't. Like, this game doesn't seem to have art direction at all. Like, it just seems like they kind of took the Other M/Prime aesthetic and... made it more generic.
Shoddy photorealism almost. It's
kind
of like,
and I don't like the enemy design of the jumping frog guys who you see in Fusion and like the Metroids. They don't look great. Like from a character design perspective, nothing about this screams like interesting. I really wish they'd gone with like a cell shaded style look to it. Like any kind of stylism to it would have been extra helpful.
It's very weird they went for the Prime look, like especially considering there's Prime 4 coming, which we can potentially assume will be photorealism or similar to the other Prime games. Who knows? But
it will actually have art direction like the original Prime.
Right,
I think those games have good art direction, but this game just feels sterile. It doesn't have personality to its look, and that's the problem I have. And it's for me, visuals are the lowest tier down usually when it comes to a video game. And I will still play this game. I'm still interested because I think mechanically it actually looks okay. Good. They showed it on the Treehouse. They've added a kind of melee move, which is like a counter that you can use on enemies and then one-shot kill them. One thing I'm worried about, looks like it has free movement on the arm cannon, but it will lock you in place. And if there's one thing I didn't like about Axiom Verge, it's that you were locked in place when you were aiming your arm around. I think that's not great. For a Metroid game, when it's all about moving and shooting at the same time, I really like the Fusion or Zero Mission model of holding down the L or R button to lock it up or down. Just lock it at an angle. That works great because you can run and gun. But when you're like doing angling stuff and locking in place, I don't think that's very good. I really don't like it. So that's one concern I have in terms of the mechanics. But otherwise, yeah, it seems like it plays well, and it seems like the level design is just ripped straight out of Metroid 2, and they're doing something to change it. But ultimately, the real problem is that AM2R came out last year for free and was a fucking love letter, looked beautiful because it's sprite art, and remade that game incredibly. Like, set the bar so fucking high. So if this game doesn't get close to that, I think people are going to shit on it a bit. You know, it's not going to live up to it. I don't think it is, because what the AM2R people did was so incredible, and that sucks, because in this day and age, Nintendo aren't going to go back to sprite art because it's just not feasible with that kind of size of development. And I don't know.
I really hope that one day Nintendo do sprite art in some way. Maybe not. Well,
I don't necessarily need them to do sprite art, but maybe something that is closer to a Guacamelee or an Ori and the Blind Forest.
And we know that
Next Level
did an art style, or were in the process of doing a 2D Metroid that had a very similar art style to Guacamelee that just looked amazing. Yeah. And it's a shame that you're right, they've gone back to this kind of non-art style, you can almost call it. And like, what I did like about this was that mechanically it looked very solid. I really liked that. I do quite like this counter move. I think the idea that enemies can charge at you and then you can time it and counter is quite a cool idea. I really like the sound design and the music. We just commented that Thingamy Caverns, Magmore Caverns, and like that theme songs from Metroid Prime are like in this game. That's really cool. And all the sound designs of like some of the shots and the noises that the enemies make, and when you get items, that the jingles and things, they're all very Metroid Prime. I like that level of polish, and that's arguably something that only like Nintendo are going to do. Like that's saying, we're Nintendo, we make Metroid games, we're going to put in all the jingles, the things that other developers can't do in the same way, whatever you want to say. But I think that it's got enough good going for it, and I do agree that I am concerned it doesn't have like its own. It is quite soulless. It's kind of like, what does this game stand for?
Yes, that's the thing I'm really trying to drive at. Is it feels soulless?
Yeah. What does it do that other video games can't do? Like what's its unique selling point? And at the moment, it's just like the arm counter thing, and like it needs more soul than that. And I think this game might have that down the line. We'll find out more about the game. It's coming out.
It's hard because it is just a remake of Metroid 2, right? So I mean, it has the identity of that game.
If you step back, this game might just be a little tester from Nintendo to say, you know what? If we made the 2D Metroid game, would it sell? Like, is this something we're still in the market of? Let's put in this amount.
That's the EA fallacy of, let's put out a half-assed game, and if it doesn't sell, we'll assume no one wants it. Like, the reason...
I don't think this game's that half-assed, though.
It's not half-assed, but, it's not had a budget put behind it. Clearly, they're going to a developer who isn't internal. Like, they are clearly putting it on 3DS instead of Switch because it is lower budget. It doesn't look that great. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that this is a B-tier game in terms of their pipeline. So with them not giving it the full treatment, I don't know. I just feel like I'm never going to complain that they're doing another 2D Metroid, but they're not whole hog on it. They're not committed. And I understand why, because of the series history, but very conflicted about this. We'll see. It's out in 3 months. Apparently, it's September 15th is the release date. So it's around the corner. Mario and Rabbids will be out before it, but there's a lot coming this year, Bally. Like,
you got that Splatoon,
overall,
Mario Rabbids, Metroid, 2D Metroid, I should say. Then you got Mario Odyssey. It's like, whoa. God.
Yeah, it actually is kind of catching up, isn't it? Like people are saying, Nintendo, what do you have for the rest of the year? It's pretty packed. A lot of that stuff looks pretty good. So I guess to close Bally, overall thoughts on Nintendo's presence at E3 so far. They might have some more announcements. I know that while we've been, recording and doing stuff, eating dinner, they announced some new Fire Emblem Amiibo, which of course they did. But yeah, overall so far, what we've seen, how do you feel?
Really good. I think any E3 where Nintendo show off 2 Metroid games, regardless of almost how they look, I think is good, is positive, is awesome. I think
it at least shows some confidence in, hey, we're going to have these franchises represented again, and they're coming back.
Exactly. And I think Super Mario Odyssey, like we've already said, is looking on a different level to almost anything else.
It's game of the show, right? Like, that is the most talked about game of the show by far. It's going to be.
It's going to be, and it should be, and there was always a chance it would be. The idea that we can already start thinking, God, this could be a Game of the Year contender in a year with games like Zelda Breath of the Wild is just crazy talk. Like, how can this game rival that? And its trailers are just, that trailer was just fantastic. If you really want to be harsh on it, no, this isn't harsh, this is perfectly fair. The lack of Virtual Console really does concern me. Not even the lack of Virtual Console necessarily, but any talk about anything like menu related, app related, like there's nothing.
Honestly, I think it was a good choice not to dig down into the Switch UI stuff. Like, that does not.
Maybe not the UI stuff, but some sort of like just here's Mother 3 and here's what's going to happen the next few months with Virtual Console. I completely get that they can do this in a direct later, and they often like to do Virtual Console stuff in directs, especially UI stuff in directs. So I totally get if a month or two after E3 they say, actually, we've got Virtual Console coming, here you go, sort of thing. Like
I have a bad feeling about Virtual Console, Bally.
Yeah, it gives me a really bad feeling that it didn't get any mention whatsoever. That's really concerning.
It's not coming this year, I think. Like, the thing that has been made clear to me is Nintendo want to have something for the Switch every month, right?
That's
like
their
for
main
the rest of
aim
its
right
life.
now.
I think that's what they want to have, is something every month for the rest of its life. And if they can drop Virtual Console in a month where they have nothing else, I think that's what they'll do. And I think this lines up with the fact that their online got delayed to 2018, and the fact that it's tied up with this Netflix-style program where you get Mario 3 and Dr. Mario and all that stuff. It seems like they're going to tie it all together, and we're not going to get Mother 3 probably until next year, when they decide, oh, this is a time where we have nothing else happening, let's do it now. And that sucks, honestly. But we'll see how it shakes out. Hopefully they won't do that. Hopefully they'll have a direct where they talk about it, but let's not get too excited, because Nintendo tend to let us down more often than not. Not today, though. They announced Metroid Prime 4, which I think will make a lot of people's E3s, so there you go.
Made mine.
Yeah. All right, well, with all that said and done, Bally, we're going to get out of here. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time talking about some more Nintendo stuff. Before then, where can people find you on the internet?
Please find me on Twitter. I'm at Ballyman91. That's BALLYMAN91. I've been doing a lot of tweeting about E3, of course, and my thoughts, my feelings, my excitement, my disappointments. Definitely check out that Twitter account. Also, check out the podcast Twitter account, which of course is at TNL Podcast. That's at TNL Podcast. That's the best place to go to find out when the latest episodes of the podcast go out, and any videos we upload to our YouTube channel go out. They're all through our Twitter account. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/This Nintendo Life. Check it out.
Yep. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at LordNBZ. If you were following me during the press conferences, you would have seen I was tweeting a lot, mainly during EA, because honestly, I wasn't really paying attention to EA because it's fucking garbage, and the only worthwhile part of that conference is Twitter, so that's what I was focusing on. But I've got some thoughts about, the other press conferences and some of those announcements, so you can have a look at that. But also, be sure to email us your thoughts on Nintendo showing at E3 this year. How did you feel? Were you positive? Were you negative? How do you think they're doing with the Switch? All that stuff. We'll address some of those next show, so send those into our email address at Bally
thisnintendolife@gmail.com. That is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. Please send us your thoughts. We want to hear them.
We do. E3 is a busy time, and I'm sure you all have some opinions, so give them to us. We want them. That's going to be it. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time with the next show, next episode, and hopefully we'll clean up a bunch of this Treehouse stuff, talk a bit more about the Ubisoft thing once Bally's watched that and all that other stuff. And hope you guys have a good E3. Hope you enjoy all the content, all the stuff, all the videos. There's a lot to listen to. My podcast feed is just drowning right now. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to go do all that stuff. I'm going to edit this show and throw this up, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. We'll address some of those next show, so send those into our email address at Bally.
You caught me right in the middle of drinking a big bit of water. Our email address is thisnintendolife@gmail.com.
Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Fucking messing this shit up.
I'm just like...